بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آله الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Sisters and brothers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, all of you are doing well. After a few weeks of break, we have decided to return and go back to the themes of the stories of the Prophet in the Holy Quran. But before I do so, please let us start by reciting Surah Al-Fatiha على روح الشهداء جميعا، لا سيما السيد المقاومة سماحة الشهيد السيد حسن نصر الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله Because of the situation now, I thought that if we were to briefly focus on the life of a prophet, that his story has become the icon for central or concrete character of sabr and patience, which is Nabi Ayyub or Job. In Shia historiography, we have an equal, if not superior, contender for this position, and that is Sayyida Zainab al-Kubra alayhi salatu wassalam. Because if anyone has in-depth understanding of her life, would come to the conclusion that what she suffered, her trial and tests, were far more painful than purely the physical calamities that Prophet Ayyub had to go through, of loss of wealth, loss of family, and physical health. But that is a different topic that inshallah one day we focus on. The date of birth of Prophet Ayyub is debated, and we really have no clear and concise information regarding the exact date of birth. If we look at the Holy Quran in Surah An'am, verse number 84, وَمِن ذُرِّيَّتِهِ دَاوُودَ وَسُلَيْمَانَ وَأَيُّوبَ, descendant and progenies of Prophet Ibrahim are Dawood, Sulaiman, and Ayyub. This gives us the broad picture of where we can locate Prophet Ayyub within this context, that he is a descendant. And this is why historians say that that his lineage is from Ais, the second son of Ishaq, not from from Yaqub, and probably with 5 or 6 generations one could trace his ancestral background and linkage to Prophet Ibrahim. He is not a Hebrew patriarch in the literature of Jewish tradition, although they say that in Talmud they say that Prophet Ayyub or Job, there is a book in a book of Job, is a prophet to Gentiles, non-Jews, but they are not considering Prophet Ayyub to be a prophet or patriarch of the Bani Israel to the Jews, because he is not descendant from Yaqub, and they have to be from there, but from Ais. The name of Ayyub has been repeated in the Holy Quran 4 times. Surah Nisa, An'am, Anbiya, and Surah Sad. In Surah Nisa, إِنَّا أَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْكَ كَمَا أَوْحَيْنَا إِلَى نُوحٍ وَالنَّبِيِّينَ مِنْ بَعْدِهِ وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَإِسْمَاعِيلَ وَإِسْحَاقَ وَيَعْقُوبَ وَالْأَسْبَاطِ وَعِيسَى وَأَيُّوبَ. That the lineage and the descendant Prophet Ibrahim, in this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions them, and Ayyub is designated within this genealogy to be descendant of Prophet Ibrahim. That's number 1. In Surah An'am, وَمِن ذُرِّيَّتِهِ دَاوُودَ وَسُلَيْمَانَ وَأَيُّوبَ, that I cited that verse earlier. In Surah Anbiya, focuses on the story of Ayyub, or around the end of the trial of Ayyub, where Ayyub turns to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and asks for mercy. وَأَيُّوبَ إِذْ نَادَى رَبَّهُ أَنِّي مَسَّنِيَ الضُّرُّ وَأَنْتَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ. Similar kind of concept, they asking, pleading to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for recovery and an end to the calamity, is in Surah Sad. وَاذْكُرْ عَبْدُنَا أَيُّوبَ إِذْ نَادَى رَبَّهُ أَنِّي مَسَّنِيَ الشَّيْطَانُ بِنُصَبٍ وَعَذَابٍ. That somehow shaitan has hurt me, and he is asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to somehow terminate this pain and return him to the health that he was. The story of his affliction has been debated between various scholars. Let's say, first of all, brief story of his life, and then we go into this debate. He is considered from our point of view as a prophet, but the exact qawm or nation that he was granted the prophecy to, we are not sure, or at least we don't have detail. Because he was wealthy, a huge amount of wealth, large family, and comfortable life, let's, for the sake of argument at the moment, we say that he was afflicted with and put through trial, and lost his family, his children, lost his wealth, and ultimately lost his health as well, to the point that he was afflicted with some kind of a skin disease, that people decided to take him out of the city and put him somewhere else near a cave. By the way, those of you who Google this, in Oman, Sultanate Oman, there are places that are associated with Prophet Ayyub that they say the cave is there, and also his burial sites are there as well. And he had to go through this affliction. The story, the essence of the story, however, from the Quranic point of view, we lack detail. If we look at the Holy Quran, beyond these verses, there is hardly anything about how and what happened to him, beyond the idea that once Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted him recovery from all this, Allah gave him whatever he lost back, his children, his wealth, and everything else. But when it comes to the detail, historians have decided to, because of the lack of detail, to use the information, borrow the literature or the narrative from Hebrew literature, which we call it Israeliyat, and sometimes this contradicts our understanding of the whole Risala, or the prophethood, and the role of shaitan. The accepted version of this hadith or the story is that Shaitan goes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and says, you know this servant of yours, that you have granted him some kind of prophecy and to guide humanity, and he is subservient and submissive to your command. It's all of this because he lives in comfort. If you were to grant me power to remove all of this, or permit me to remove all of this, and once he finds himself in absolute poverty and physical illness, then he would change from being submissive to the command of God and the exemplary human being. This story says that Allah said, okay, go ahead and see it. I find it difficult to accept that Shaitan somehow comes in to try to see whether Ayyub is going to submit to the command of God, because when we look at other verses in the Holy Quran clearly states that Shaitan has no authority for those who submit to the command of Allah. Inna ibadi laysa laka alayhim sultan. Those who really are subservient to and submit to my command, you have no authority over them. Although he is asking Allah to give authority in the story, but still I find it far-fetched. The whole story in Surah Ayyub, in the story of Ayyub, is for the concept of sabr and patience to be introduced into the story, and for us, the readers of the story, to understand how we have to submit to the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala في السراء والضراء وفي الشدة والرخاء, whether in quiet, in secret, or in public, and whether we are going through pain or ease. We need to submit to the command of Allah. And the story goes that, let us focus on the way they presented, that Shaitan came, and the first thing that happened was he set some kind of disease within his flock, and all his animals died. Then within his family and children, the same thing happened. Within his wives, his wives left him. Ultimately, one wife stayed with him to the end, and finally they removed, because of a disease in his skin and so on, they moved him out of the city. Shaitan would appear to Prophet Ayyub constantly that if you were to submit to, look what your God is doing to you, if you are to return from your God and go towards, say, idols or something else, then all of this could be returned. Ayyub insists that he's not going to do so. And ultimately, he realizes that Shaitan is trying to misguide him towards moving away or wavering from his position. He returns to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and asks Allah for the end to the calamity and the test that he's going through. This underscores my doubt whether Shaitan is going to be the cause. He ultimately returns to Allah and asks Allah to end the test. So he sees this as a kind of a test and trial that Allah has put him through. Analysis of the story and then Quran says that we granted him, and all the thing that he had lost, not only that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted him that, وَمِثْلَهُمْ مَعَهُمْ, and multiplied. So he became again healthy, wealthy, with multiple with children and everything else, extended family, etc. Analysis of the story of Ayyub in the Holy Quran has led scholars both in the theological field and in the mystical field to assess the gist or the essence of this story. which is sabr and patience. The theologians, they look at it as part of ethic and akhlaq. Sabr is primarily as part of ethics and akhlaq, and akhlaq al-amali, the practical ethics. And we have over 100 verses in the Holy Quran that the concept of sabr and patience have been, in one way or the other, have been addressed. The theologians rely on a hadith from the Holy Prophet that divides sabr on three types. الصبر ثلاثة: الصبر عند المعصية، الصبر عند الطاعة، والصبر عند المصيبة. There are three different types of patience. الصبر عن المعصية means you become patient when you are challenged by sinfulness and disobedience of Allah. You say no. This is one kind of a patience. الصبر عند الطاعة, you push. So one sabr, one patience is to remove yourself from committing sin and being patient and not to commit sins. The other one, الصبر عند الطاعة, you force yourself to do good deeds and submit to the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when nafs al-ammara doesn't want you to do it. And the sabr and al-musibah, this is the concept that we are familiar with. Whenever a concept of sabr is mentioned, patience, we try to only contextualize it in the field of musibah. When we are faced with calamities in our life, we have to be patient. The scholars say that patience means that we don't complain to anybody else apart from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't weep and lament and scream, etc. when we are dealt with musibah and calamities in life. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't complain to Allah, or not complain. We shouldn't go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask Allah for resolution of the problem. But at least to others apart from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we shouldn't do it. And this is something, the essence of what we call the mystical approach to the concept of sabr. Mystics and Urafa have spent huge amount of time and literature in analyzing the concept of sabr, the notion of sabr. Those of you who are familiar with the sayr and suluk, with the journey that the Urafa, they say that there are stages that one has to go through until one reaches the ultimate submission and annihilation, etc. One of these stages is maqam al-sabr. Maqam al-sabr is a station in which the servant, the abd, would not and has to go through three different types of sabr. First, in the lower level, you don't complain about the calamities. Number two, you don't see the calamities. You don't see it. Number three, you get pleasure by the calamities because you have been selected to choose through the test. And if you, both in Farsi and in Arabic language, if you go to Ibn al-Farid, al-Misri, and Muhtasham Kashani, as well as Hafid and others, you see a number of poems specifying the fact, reminding the wayfarer not to see the pain, at least as a lower level. The concept of sabr and the literature around it has become now part and parcel of what we call not only mystical text in Farsi language or in Arabic language, in English as well has become something that people have written about. There is an article, Sabr wa Shakipwai as Manzara Irfan Islami, which is a good article that looks at it, Sabr from the Irfanic point of view, Islamic Irfan. There is also a couple of articles that I found as I was going through, looking to see what articles exist in English language. One is on patience, Sabr in Sufi virtue ethics, written by Atif Khalil. This is, I believe, an article that came out of the American University in Beirut. The other one, A Key to Excellence, Patience and Patient in the Early Sufis. So both of these, and there are plenty of other articles that if you want to research, and there are books, a section of it, all the books that have been written on the concept of Irfan within Persian or Arabic literature, or commentaries on the poems that Shia or Sunni poets have talked about, particularly in Arabic, Ibn al-Farid, and in Farsi there are a number of poets that have written about. Please, you can refer to them and understand them. There are sections of books written on Irfan or Sufis in English that talks about maqamat, and part of this maqamat is the maqam of sabr and different combination, permutation, and so on that exist. So the story of Ayyub has become the exemplary story of a character that no matter what pain he went through, he never wavered from the right path, and ultimately he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to remove the calamities, which Allah did. And you go to these 4 chapters, Nisa, An'am, Anbiya, and Sad, you see the story, and if you read the commentaries about them, again, you will be able to understand some more. We can spend one session of dealing with sabr from Irfanic point of view, not just as part of ethics. Ayatollah Khamenei has a book on sabr. Marhum Imam Rahmatullah Alayh has a good commentary on the concept of sabr from Irfanic point of view. All contemporary scholars, particularly scholars of Irfan, they have talked about sabr and how one goes through it as one traverses these paths of wayfaring and sayr and suluk. Muhammad Hussein Tehrani has in his books few issues and refers to them. So inshallah, if there is a desire to specifically focus on this, we can address it in another session, that we put this particular issue becomes the theme. I want to reiterate what I said earlier. For me, the life of Sayyida Zainab Salamullahi alayha stands out as more of a better example of sabr and patience, both from an Irfanic point of view as well as from a religious point of view, than even Ayyub. But unfortunately, this has not been addressed properly. Thank you very much. We will continue with this in next session. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.